Yes, hello, welcome to Cross Politics on the Fight Live Feast Network. Pastor Toby Chuck Knox. I'm the Water Boy. It's good to be with you in the new year. Me and Toby are actually going to be at the inaugural ceremony.
Inauguration.
Inaugural ceremony.
I'm trying to make
It's Trump on December 20th. That's gonna be interesting.
Yeah.
We're basically gonna be there for a day. You're flying in. I'm staying like a morning longer.
Yeah.
No inauguration balls.
Well, that's part of why I'm gonna stay a little longer. And everything. Trying to figure all that out.
Did you get us tickets to that one you sent us about?
Bro. Well, we're gonna be flying in Sunday night. That's Sunday night, and we'll be in at like 11:45.
Come on, man.
It'll still be. And maybe it's still going because it's so expensive.
JD Vance and
y'all be safe there. I'm just saying.
Trump Jr.
Be safe.
We're going to talk Idaho today. We got Representative Heather Scott coming on the show.
Yes.
This is right now, I think, in every state, whatever state you live in, pay attention to legislative session. Call your local representative.
They're all starting up now.
They're all starting up right now and kind of say, get the lay of the land. Hey, what's going on? What's going to happen this
How can I support you?
How can I help?
How can I encourage you? How are we going to push back the tyranny, the socialism?
Does anybody communicate as much as Heather Scott does, one of our reps? I can't think of
even our local.
I can't think of anybody who communicates as much or more than Heather Scott.
Yeah,
I'm always looking forward to talking to Heather.
Yeah.
She's been working hard for us for a number of years.
And she doesn't even represent our region.
I know.
No.
But I feel like she's our representative. She's the cross-politic representative.
That's true.
Business owners, is your company struggling to grow? What if I told you that the right employee could grow your business by 5, 10, or even 25%?
Glory, hallelujah. I feel God.
Right there.
You would be crazy not to take that deal, right? With redballoon.works revolutionary recruiter service, we make this a reality. We dive deep into your company's culture, needs, and crafting a tailored strategy to deliver top-tier, values-aligned talent. Forget sky-high fees. Our premium service is just $4,500 plus $2,000 per hire. Don't let bad hires hold you back. Visit redballoon.work and start profiting today.
Silver, hallelujah. Gold, hallelujah. Goods, hallelujah.
In a world overwhelmed by chaos and confusion, it's time to take a stand. The Built to Conquer Conference is here to help families reclaim the spiritual ground that's been lost. We're equipping men and women with the tools and resources they need to stand firm against the challenges of our times. This is a full-day Bible conference with the following speakers: Caleb Gordon, Brett Baggett, Brandon Scuff, Josh Eaton, Michael Stanton, Chris Gore, Gabe Wrench.
That's right. Yours truly.
Who's
that guy? They go to Oklahoma.
Oh my!
You like that?
Don't catch you like down.
Andrew Rappaport. Tickets are just $50. Just $50. So get tickets at calebgordon.org. That's calebgordon.org for the what's this called again? The Built to Conquer.
Built to Conquer
Conference.
It's in February.
Yeah. As we said, we are grateful to have with us it's the personal cross-politic representative, Heather Scott. She is a five-term representative serving Idaho's District 2, which is, I think, just a little bit north of us here. House Seat A, a longtime resident of North Idaho. Heather has lived in the region for over 25 years. She was born in Ohio and holds a Bachelor of Science in Biology from the University of Akron. Heather has worked professionally as an aquatic biologist, which makes her really well suited for life in the swamps.
Navigating
in the swamp.
We don't have swamps here in Idaho, do we?
Also a small business owner. She serves as the vice chair of the Judiciary Rules and Administration Committee and as a member of the Environment, Energy, and Technology and State Affairs Committees. Heather is deeply involved in advancing conservative principles as the co-chair of the Idaho Freedom Caucus, Club for Growth Fellow, and a Hazlitt Coalition member. Heather, thanks for coming back on Cross Politic.
Thank you for having me on.
Absolutely. This is your 5th term?
Isn't that scary? Yeah.
So you're going on 10 years at the end of this, right?
11 year. Yeah, this 11.
Wow.
Way to go.
But the first 8 years was a big fight. So I've only now been able to run some legislation since we got rid of the old speaker. So
yeah. Wow. Well,
8 years.
We are so grateful for your work and always grateful to have you back on with us. We love checking in with you routinely to find out what's going on in our capital. So Governor Brad Little just gave a state of the state address at the beginning of the week. And we've got just a brief clip of him talking about some of the education choice stuff. And then love to hear initially just your response to the state of the state, both
general response,
his, what he says here about educational choice, but then in just your general takeaways from the state of the state. So first Brad Little and then your response.
Okay.
We are a leader in education freedom. I recognize the growing desire to expand school choice, especially for students with unique physical or developmental conditions. I am recommending $50 million to further expand education options for Idaho families.
$50 million. And what does that mean?
Just like we do with every taxpayer dollar that is spent in government, we will ensure there is oversight in school choice.
There goes $20 million.
Why? Because accountability in government is an Idaho value. It is what taxpayers demand and deserve. As we expect the following from our public schools, any school choice measure I would consider must be done the Idaho way. That means it is fair, responsible, transparent, and accountable. It must prioritize the families that need it most, and it must not take away funds from public schools.
Don't touch the public schools.
We will do so while continuing to prioritize, first and foremost, our public schools. Adequately funding public schools is both our constitutional and our moral obligation, and we will not abandon that obligation.
So, Heather, response either to the educational choice stuff, maybe that in particular, but other thoughts just on
quick before I vomit.
Governor Little's state of the state.
I'll touch on the school first, but then I'll give my general. It was just a really sad speech. But the first thing is we are not leading on education. He says Idaho is leading. All these other states are way advanced. They have school choice, real school choice. We don't. And the very little bit of crumbs we're starting to get, it sounds to me like a lot of oversight is what he wants. He wants them to turn into public schools, which is why all the parents want the choice. We will see something this year for school choice because the parents have had enough. They're demanding it. I just don't have high hopes that they're not going to try to micromanage every bit of school choice, which is unfortunate.
And as far as the rest of the speech goes, you said it was pretty sad. I mean, what were the, I don't know, I'm going to ask high points, but maybe low points. I don't know what to ask for.
There was a high point. He mentioned the Boise State girls volleyball standing up to the transgender trying to compete. And so everyone, that was the biggest applaud. That was a standing ovation for them. So I don't know. It's just maybe I'm getting cynical. I've heard too many of the same old song and dance. He had a catchy little phrase. He kept saying, keeping our promises. And I kept wanting to say what your promise is to your cronies. But I didn't. I resisted the urge to stand up and say, who'd you promise what? But I didn't.
You couldn't pull some sort of Marjorie Taylor Greene on that one?
No.
Heather, I'm wondering, so then what's the state of our state as you see it?
Well, I'm very hopeful. I'll talk about the legislature, but let's just talk about the main thing is the spending, right? It's nobody has any money. The government has a ton of money. I heard it's the second biggest growing employer in the state is government now.
Wow.
And so the governor came out and said he wanted to give $100 million in tax relief, which seems like a lot, but he wants $400 million in new spending. So to me, that's really discouraging but I don't think we should expect more from what we've seen. I mean, this is, in my opinion, this is a governor that has kowtowed to the last, 8 years of Democrat, administrations from the federal government. But the good news is the Idaho legislators, the House in particular, leadership came back with the response that said, we don't want $100 million in tax relief. We are pushing for $300 to $350 million in tax relief. That's huge tax relief back to the citizens. That has to come out of the House, and it's House leadership that's saying that. So that's really good news. Definitely really good news.
Oftentimes when I hear about tax relief, I think, okay, they're playing some sort of funny game to give me those numbers. How do you not be funny with tax relief and actually be honest and genuine with it?
Well, I'll say this. They have been funny. It all comes down to spending and how much you have left over to give for tax relief, right? So up until last year was the first year that we changed the way we do budgets in Idaho. Nobody sees this stuff because it goes on behind the scenes, but it is huge for the direction the legislature said we want Idaho to go. So what we did was we started to break up budgets. Each year we get a big budget. Everything's in it. Wants, needs. And if you vote against it, you hate children or you hate police officers or what if you vote no. Yeah. So what we did last year is we separated every single budget into wants and needs. Okay. So base budgets and then enhanced spending. So now this is the first year that we're really moving this direction. This year, you will get to see what are the schools really spending, and what do they want for new spending? That's huge because every year that new spending just got thrown in and nobody knew what it was. Yeah. So you will be able to see that transparency. The other thing that the House has done or the legislature is doing this year is we're putting accountability to that spending. So there's going to be performance metrics, and if they don't meet them, they don't get the money. And so that's really good positive changes because
who's they? They don't get the money.
Schools.
The executive branch. The executive branch spends most of the money in this state. That's the governor and his 200 agencies.
Wow.
Oh my goodness.
It's just, yeah.
Do we need a Doge for Idaho?
Well, people don't realize, but we have been doing that the last 2 years. Okay. As you know, we changed leadership in the House. Yeah. Once that happened, we got rid of our old leadership. He went to the governor, and he went to lieutenant governor. Things have changed. The direction has changed. We have been cleaning up our administrative rules. We have been changing the processes. It's how we got the budget process changed last year. So things happen slowly, but we have been doing the Doge thing. The new speaker, and that's why I supported him in this last run. He wants accountability with the way we allow the executive branch to write their rules, or if we even let them write their rules. I mean, there's been a lot of things structurally that you guys don't see, but they happen behind the scenes that we had to get in place. And I think with the new body, we've got way more conservatives now. I think you're going to see some real changes in Idaho.
Wait, so the executive branch can write their own rules? Isn't that Congress's job or legislative session's job?
So no, Congress is in Washington, D.C. We're in the state. Yep. And so what will happen is we'll write a law that says, maybe it says all doctors have to do 10 hours of training in eye exams or something like that. Okay. But we're not eye people. We don't know about medical stuff. So the health and welfare department has specialists, and they will kind of define rules on what that looks like, right? Maybe they got to study this part or that part or a certain piece of equipment. So over the years, legislators have just kind of written really vague laws and let the executive branch do what they want. And then even worse, they have allowed federal code to just get thrown into our state administrative rules.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Too much. So it's laziness on the part of the legislature. It's the executive branch being overexerting their power, and us just not doing anything about it.
It seems like, I'm sure you followed the Chevron doctrine case that happened, and that's basically what needs to happen here in Idaho, where the bureaucracies in here, legislative session would say, make a law, and the bureaucracies would end up interpreting it the way they wanted to interpret it.
Right.
And it seems like that's kind of what you're trying to illustrate here, and that needs to be nipped in the bud.
Right, and it has been a bit, but with this new performance metrics, it's going to be way better. I'm introducing a bill in the next few weeks that's going to streamline a bunch of stuff and get reporting to a place where you can actually see the reports for the public. Another thing that I actually got passed 2 years ago was a bill that got all these government contracts online. Take a guess how many government contracts the executive branch has.
Thousands.
Yeah. Well, when I first did a records request, they turned in 5,000. And I thought, wow, that's a lot. Well, I passed a bill that said you have to put it online at the state controller's office. I realized a lot of people didn't follow that records request, but once it became law, there are 58,000 contracts.
What?
The state of Idaho has with, they're getting federal money for this or federal money for that. You could never find that. And we actually have that online now. You can download it, and it's a searchable Excel spreadsheet, and you will be shocked when you see where money's coming, who they're in contracts with, what they're sharing data with. It'll blow your mind. So
what's the website?
It'd be the Idaho State Controller, and it would be under contracts and agreements.
Wow.
It's under transparency.
Man.
So,
thank you for doing that. Thank you for doing that, Heather. Seriously.
Yeah, it's there's been a lot of dodge things, but we're Idaho, nobody notices.
Right.
And we've had a really liberal body. So it's amazing we've gotten so much through, but I think you're going to see a lot this year. We've already got some bills this year, so
I want to get to that too, because I want to get to part of what prompted all of this is your list of can we call them 2025 resolutions for Idaho? You got 8 of them listed here, so I want to get to that. I also want to get to some of the things that are coming out right now. I wanted to ask you, how much money is the federal government's spending in Idaho? Are we taking from the federal government? Do you know that number, and do you know where the money is going?
A lot of it's going to health and welfare. I don't know the number. I'm not in the appropriations. I could get someone on your show that could talk numbers all day long that you would love.
Okay.
So I'll get that to you, and they can talk about all the budgets and some of the stuff we've cleaned up. I'll say this. One of the guys from health and welfare, they got a new director. Finally, they got a new director, and they are cleaning up a lot of stuff internally, like realizing I just talked to him the other day, and there's like over 1,000 contracts with just giving money to just ridiculous things. So there is a change in spirit here. I think there's still the old guard, and I really think we need to clean out the executive branch. I just it's hard in a state like Idaho, where there's definitely North Idaho is not like the rest of the state, and I cannot stress that enough. It is a different country up north.
So you put out these 8, like your top 8 priorities for the 2025 legislative session. You just want to walk through these with us, talk to us. I mean, why these? What are the key ones?
Well, these are kind of general. I could say this. We are going after a ton of state sovereignty issues, returning the control back to the state over the federal government, and transparency bills. obviously, I guess I'll go hit these quickly, but taking back our lands, taking back the management of them, I mean, that could bring so many resources to take care of taxes in general, all the property taxes we're paying. It's a huge issue. I've heard even in California now, they're starting to see maybe we need to manage the lands a little better.
Yeah.
With the fires, it's ridiculous. We have allowed it so long. And I do think there's a case right now going to the Supreme Court or trying to get into the Supreme Court with the American Lands Council. Our Idaho Freedom Caucus signed onto it, and they basically are bringing the question, hey, if the BLM is not using the land, do they have the right to keep it in perpetuity? So that question is hopefully going to be taken up at the Supreme Court. I think if we get a ruling on that, I think we're going to see these states. I mean, Utah's ready. They're way advanced. They want their land back. I think you're going to start to see other states jump on the bandwagon. I mean, Idaho rarely leads, but with new leadership now, I think you're going to start to see some changes.
Interesting.
This is
so
a
that's
big
the land.
Yeah, that's a big deal too, because we were looking at it earlier. I think we've talked a little bit about this before in the past, but 61% of the land in Idaho is owned by the federal government. Now
it's like we're slaves.
Yeah, exactly.
It's the highest percentage. We're the highest percentage state, I think, in the union with federal government ownership. Highest percentage, not acres.
And because we're Idaho, nobody really pays attention. Yeah. But Heather, would you explain something for me? The way you talked about that, it would help with property taxes. How does that work?
Well, back in the day, if we can get to our timber, it brings resources, it brings money into our state. Those big timber companies, those mills, they used to fund all the schools. There was never an ask for levies. Why would you need a levy? Because you had the businesses took care of your schools, your local schools. And so there's a lot of money and resources. There's a lot of money in our resources that the federal government is squandering, in my opinion, letting burn to the ground. So that's what I mean by that.
Wow, we need to make Idaho great again.
So that is fascinating.
Brian.
So there's all these resources, natural resources in our state
can't touch
that could be funding our needs, and
lowering taxes
lowering taxes. What's that?
Make Idaho great again.
Yeah. And but that's really fascinating. I don't think about that.
I didn't either. No, that's why when she brought that up, I was like, that's fascinating.
Okay, so property taxes or
take back our lands.
Cut the CFRs. That's what I spoke about a little bit. Over the years, Idaho has put into those administrative code, they got lazy and they just said, we'll just put CFR 24, which let the federal government, whatever they write, we'll just put into our Idaho code and we'll manage it that way. So there are thousands and thousands of pages of regulation in our code that look just like a number, but it's
a federal government regulation.
It's a federal government, and these the people that push this say, well, we've got to enforce it anyway. We might as well just put it in, and then we don't have to do our own. But that needs to be cleaned up. Review and revise agency policies. You're going to see. That's happening as we speak. So you're going to see what they've done is if we don't pass a law to give them what they want, then they put it in their administrative rules. And when we kill their administrative rules, they put it into policy. And then they just say, well, that's our policy. That's how we run it. So we got that going on. Shrinking the bureaucracy, that's just always a lot of that is reducing the number of employees. And like I said, it's the second fastest growing sector in our state.
I'm glad you brought that up because I wanted to come back to this. You said it's so the government, the state is becoming the fastest growing employer. Why does that matter? Why should people care about that? Because most people here and there are saying, what are you talking about? That means we're going to have jobs that all the time and we're going to always get paid and it's going to be a good thing. We're going to have more work. The government's great. What's wrong with that?
Well, so the government doesn't produce anything. They don't produce anything. Think about it. If you milk a cow, you're producing something. If you're cutting down a tree, you're producing something. Digging up garden, food, you're doing something. The government doesn't do anything. It doesn't provide anything. It only regulates and puts control on things. And as it grows, it starts to think it's your mommy or your daddy, right? It turns into this big nanny state, like you just hear these bills and they're great ideas, but it's not the role of government to take care of every little problem every person has. It's individual responsibility, and so that's why that's part of that.
So then otherwise you become a whole bunch of agents of bureaucracy just running around here, right? And you don't produce anything. That's interesting.
You're regulating, and then you cost business people more, and the private sector shrinks even more. So you just have the workers and then the people that control the workers.
Oh, wow.
Which is my position, which is why we should probably get the government out of education.
which actually leads to number 5, which is reclaim local control of schools. Talk to us about that.
The federal government has no right dealing with their schools, controlling the policies and stuff they do. It is not a delegated power of the federal government. So that's the first thing. I've really been strong about parents should be raising their children, not the government. I just went to a David Barton Wall Builders event, and he went back through the history of our country, and I think there's a little bit more to it than that, but ultimately parents are responsible for their children. Right. And so I don't think you're going to fix the government schools. They just want more money. They're completely gone. So the only option I see is competition.
Yes.
And that's it. And give people an option to get them out. And unfortunately, the people that can't, I don't know, some people won't be able to get out, but maybe it'll make them do their job better. Maybe we'll get more of these micro schools or little pod schools that are specialty schools. But our schools are a joke. Kids are not learning. And now they're saying, we want to bring all these people from India into our country or other countries because they're smarter than us. Well, no wonder. We don't educate our children. We teach them about sex in kindergarten, right?
Yeah, if you're in control of the talent pool and the talent pool isn't doing well, then it's your fault. You got to take responsibility for that.
They just need more money.
Yeah, that's $50 million.
Some more money.
Yeah, that's right. That's working out really well for it. I was going to ask you a question around this, and we'll keep moving on, but how do we incentivize people? Because I think you're right. We have a broken system here. We got things we need to change inside of the Idaho Constitution because it was built inside of our Constitution there with this. How do you get people to see you can do a better job educating your own kids than the government can at this point, and then your state can? How do we incentivize that type of thinking?
I always think it has to come down to one-on-one relationships. It really does. I know it sounds like, that's too simple, but it's one person at a time, building communities, talking to our neighbors, encouraging them. These school co-ops are really helpful. And people saying, hey, to a mom of 3, hey, it's not that hard. It's you can do this too. And just the encouragement. It's what God wants for us all, individual relationships. And we just grow it slow. We grow it solid. And that's how you do it. There's no magical, we create this. Everything gets corrupted. So it has to start individually, discipleship, one-on-one.
Heather, you mentioned earlier, you were not exactly plussed about Governor Little's comments regarding school choice. You mentioned that probably something is going to pass this legislative session. You think something's going to probably get into play. Are there any? Are there different options on the table? Are there different bills being presented? And if so, are there any of them better than others? And like you, I'm incredibly leery of the government getting hooks in to the way that I educate my children.
Yep.
And I'm very, very suspicious about even voucher and
school choice language.
The school choice language is frequently getting I think weaponized in a certain way and maybe duping people into thinking, free money for my homeschool or my private school, which over time may turn into just making your private school a public school. What are you seeing? Are any of our legislators seeing that possibility? Are there good conversations happening around this topic?
Yeah, people are kind of holding their bills tight to the chest right now. It is the first week. But, I think you're going to see some type of a tax credit. There is a big
for school choice, tax credit for school choice.
Yeah. And I think there was a bill last year, the last week of session. I don't have it in front of me, but I think it's going to be similar to that. I'm hoping, and many of us are, that it's unregulated. I mean, you cannot regulate, and that's what I heard out of Governor Little's speech.
Right.
We want school choice, but we want them to look just like our public government-run schools, and that's not going to produce anything different than what we have. So I don't, there's a lot of homeschoolers that just want to shut it down completely, and it's going to be a fight. There's so many lobby groups that want the win and have a great idea or approach. And it's, quite frankly, it's not my committee. I stay out of the school conversations.
Okay.
I just don't. I can get you a school specialist on here, like a legislator that can go and deep dive. I called him before I got on and said, what do I need to know? And he said, well, we're getting something. $50 million is given to it. We're spending over $3 billion on our schools.
You shut up.
60% of Idaho's budget is education.
I don't think it's 60, but it's pretty.
Really?
It's a lot.
Bring that chart up. Bring that chart up.
Do you know? You said you just stay out the education. So if you don't have this answer, that's totally fine. But I was just wondering, do you know where we are ranking with that type of education?
Is it
spent?
Really quick? Is it 50% of our money goes to
public schools? Is 50? It says 50%. Where did we get that chart?
Well, just remember these charts, they
Bottom
can
left.
manipulate them.
Oh, yeah.
Because it'd be like, oh, well, that's not the federal money, or that's not this grant money, or you have to really look at what it's.
Yeah.
I'll get you the number. But I think it's more like 45% maybe.
Okay.
That doesn't make me feel better, Heather. Don't make me feel. Yeah, it don't make me feel
wrong
better.
by 4%.
One of the things I think that at the state of the state, the governor said that we spent money over the last 5 years and we're still not doing great, and so that's why he's working on giving more money. But if we're spending that kind of money and it's not doing great, the answer isn't money, is it?
No.
Okay.
And remember, he's supposed to do what we told him. He's supposed to enforce the law. That's what the executive branch does. They're not supposed to legislate. I don't care how great his ideas are. You want to write law, then run as a legislator.
Right.
Just enforce the laws we do. And I get he has his ideas and his plans, but I kind of am a little sensitive because I had a call today from some gal that told me I'm accountable and I work for the governor. And I said, no, I do not.
Oh my goodness.
So anyway, something I don't have on this list that you're going to see probably an E-Verify bill this year. The immigration problem has been such a problem. Last year in committee, I've got to grab this clip. You guys would probably like it. I asked the guy, it was ahead of let's just say one of the working segments of our state. And I asked him how many of his employees were illegal. 70% of their workforce are illegal.
What?
That's
in Idaho?
Is that a company?
For Idaho, 70%.
Is that a company in Idaho that has that?
It's an industry.
Okay.
Oh, okay. 70% of their industry is illegal. Okay.
That
So something
deals
probably
with
like farming, cows, stuff like that. Yeah. Moo.
And things you dip cookies in and stuff like that.
Oh, well, in that case, it's not a tech job, right? In that case, it's okay.
No, it's not.
Okay, you're on that. It's fine.
But so they boldly said this on the video. Like,
Wow.
Like they're getting recorded. Like, 70%. We're violating the law.
Yeah.
70% of our workforce is illegal, and so that's really really bad. So I do think we're going to, we want people to come to the state, but we want them to come legally.
Right.
And we don't need, so I think you're going to see E-Verify. You're going to see some things to help law enforcement, to help with whatever Trump does to kind of get the illegals out. Yeah.
What is E-Verify? Can you explain
I was
that?
gonna ask that too.
I don't totally know, but it's like they really check. There's some kind of a checking that you're really a citizen and you're not. You have a social security number. I think you've got to certify. I don't know exactly. So, but that's what I've been told is E-Verify. I've seen it kind of floating around here. So,
and that would be for employers in order to hire an employee, they would have to go through an E-Verify system.
Yeah, like you know how when you apply, I don't know, in the old days, you give them your birth certificate and your social security card. I'm sure it's some kind of a combination of like these things to prove that I'm really a citizen.
Man, I like it and I don't like it.
I know.
I like it and I don't like it.
This is system owned by the government.
Yeah.
What could go wrong?
Yeah. See, I don't know.
Heather, what do you think are the opportunities? What are you excited about?
Well, I still want to get through some of this because you got the Reduce Federal Reliance. Go ahead.
I mean, what are you excited about accomplishing? If you're saying our legislative session is more liberty minded than the past, we got some better leadership, stuff like that. What are you excited about?
I really think you're going to see tax relief. I mean, real tax relief. I just think I know there's a bill coming out in the next week or so dealing with food taxes. I think you're going to see some income tax relief. I just think you're going to see, every year they say, oh, you're going to get a tax relief, but you're getting like $100, like nobody even notices it, or they send you a check in the mail and Brad Little takes credit for it, which I think we kiboshed that. He can't do that anymore. Good. But you're going to see real tax relief, trying to get money back into the hands of families so they can pay their bills and actually live. That's what I think. I think at the same time, you're going to see a lot of these federal dollars that have been pumped into our state and taken with all these strings attached. I think they're going to start drying up. I think you're going to see them cleaning house at the federal level, and we have got to clean from the bottom up as they're cleaning from the top down. We cannot depend on them. Here's my concern with what will happen is the Trump administration could come in and say, hey, we're cleaning up all the school DEI and all the critical race theory, and that's never going to happen again. And here's all this stuff. But they shouldn't be in the first place even telling us about this. Like, sorry, this is our deal. We deal with school. You deal with national security. Right. And, maybe the border, stuff like that. So
maybe the border.
I think,
radical. Heather, I'm curious. You mentioned this, DEI and this kind of stuff, and I'm curious. I mean, that has been one of the things that Trump said that he wants to go to town on. It's something that down in Florida, they've been going to town on, particularly in the universities. Yeah. Trump has said, at the universities, he wants to completely eradicate the critical race theory and the DEI stuff. I mean, my wife went to the University of Idaho, a little over 20 years ago now. Yeah. And she was in elementary education. And I remember in her elementary ed lit class, the teacher had them read this story about a little boy that wanted to be a girl. And my wife had to write a paper. This is 20 years ago, 2001, 2002.
Yeah.
She was supposed to write a paper about how she would use this book in an elementary classroom. And my wife said, I wouldn't. And the teacher afterwards said, but what if you have a student that's struggling with their sexuality? So this is, that's over 20 years ago. Yeah. And it seems to me like at least part of the problem that we have in our schools is that our universities are
educating
and inculcating these completely anti-Christian, anti-American, natural law ideologies. And so I'm wondering, University of Idaho, Boise State, I mean, these things are connected to Idaho. Are there ways in which the our liberty-minded legislators are thinking about trying to strip out those really anti-Christian, anti-Idaho ideologies from our government and our universities?
Yeah, absolutely. And, we do not have a mandate to fund these colleges.
Okay.
I don't know why we're even funding half the stuff we're funding to begin with. We need to radically reduce. If they've got enough money to be out there pumping this nonsense into people, they've got way too much money.
Yeah.
And so, we pass laws and try to do stuff, but they keep finding these wiggle room, these little loopholes around it. They change the verbiage. We've
seen that. Yep.
Don't call it this. Now it's a person it's a heart problem with these professors and these people. I mean, our society is morally decayed, and so we really get people in positions, and we keep going, well, why is everything turning out so bad? Well, it's because the moral decay is it's rotting. Everything's rotting, and so we really need to do our Great Commission and build relationships and share Christ and get heart changes. These people, you can't fix. Evil's going to do evil. You can try to stop it. You can try to slow it down, but it's going to keep wiggling around. You're never going to stop it until you stop that heart.
I mean, you can't express this enough.
Change that heart.
You can't express this enough. Like how sin affects our budgets.
Yeah,
our state budgets, right? How the Great Commission affects our state budgets.
Yep.
And I was actually arguing with a liberal on Twitter today, talking about this. Like he's like, why is because Heather, you're proposing some sort of marriage amendment that trumps the federal thing. Actually, go through that first because I got some comments on it.
Yeah, I should share that. Last 2 days, but literally, it's the Obergefell decision. Yeah, and you probably are aware of it, and it's literally a resolution that says we are asking you to reverse the decision. This is not your place to define marriage for our state. It's a state's right. You've done this out of judicial supremacy. It's not the role of the judges to change law on marriage. And so we're asking, they don't really reconsider. It gets challenged and has to, just like the Coach Kennedy case. So, but that's what it is. It's a letter from our legislature that said, we recognize that you've overstepped your authority, and we're asking you, Supreme Court, to reverse this. Basically, when they
is that a possibility? I mean, if we send that letter, that's something that they can actually take back up.
They could take it back up. I doubt they will because they never want to admit they're wrong, but what they do, just like with the Coach Kennedy case, they were going by the Lemon case, and then when that Coach Kennedy case thing, they're like, oh, yeah, that's kind of irrelevant now. So I think once we challenge it, they could repeal it. Look, it's just like the Roe versus Wade, So it's the same thing. We've now taken back control of abortion in the states. Yeah. It's our decision at the state. It always was. It was a bad ruling. And this is the same thing now with this same-sex marriage. It is a state's decision, and it's a violation of our Constitution. They do not have the right, the federal government does not have the right to come into our state and say, your Constitution is null and void. We believe this.
Right.
Got to stop taking that money, too, then. Right. All that matters.
It makes it hard. Makes it hard to stand up to the federal government when they, how much of our budget is funded by the feds?
Yeah. Well, I know how much land they own.
Yeah.
Well, basically on Twitter, there's this guy in Idaho kind of talking about your amendment and just saying, why are conservatives always so stuck on homosexuality? And I just responded to the guys like, public sin always makes societies worse off, including the economy.
Right.
And then another guy actually chimed in too. He said, for almost the first 200 years of this nation's founding, sodomy was illegal in every state.
Right.
And so, and he's going back. The leftists want to protect this kind of manifestation of sin in our economy. But here in Idaho, it's like, man, if we can get it out, it's actually going to be better for our state economically too. Not just for faithfulness to God's word and everything, but it's going to help the economy.
Right.
Speaking of economy, I want to go to your number 8 point because this is really interesting to me.
Gold.
Explore hard money. Let's talk about that real quick because I want to know what you got up your sleeve.
Okay, so we need some campaign finance reform. So as you watched what happened with the ranked choice voting this year.
Oh, yeah.
Millions of dollars poured into our state.
Outside money.
Outside money to change the direction of this state. So we're starting to really look at the laws concerning this. There were a couple other groups that came in. They did a bunch. I don't want to name names, but I could, but I won't. But they caused a lot of grief for conservatives and for non-conservatives. And they flat out told lies, some of them. And we had one conservative lose by 2 votes. 2 votes.
Wow.
And this group sent out like 3 negative mailers against that person. So there's just been a lot of outside money. They say Idaho legislators are cheap to buy. Our state is a cheap state to buy influence. And so we're going to start looking at that. There's no cap on how much a PAC could spend against me or how much a PAC could take. So if you had a PAC, if you had a cross politics PAC and you raised $1 million, you could spend $1 million against me or for me.
Yeah.
And if I wanted to combat that, I can raise $1,000 at a time max from people.
Wow.
That's all I can get max per year or per cycle. So you can't keep up with the outside money in the PAC. So they don't even report like we have to report way differently than they do. So I think we're going to start to look at the outside money, the money that you can't track where it's coming from and address some of this before they flip our state.
Yeah.
In a direction that's not Idaho.
What's your biggest concern this year in legislative session?
That's funny. I don't know that I have a big concern. I'm super hopeful this year. I think in 10 years I've been here that we have the best looking body that we've had in 10 years. We have administration at the federal level that has set the tone for a direction. I think people are ready to move forward. I'm very positive this time, even though none of my bills, I've got like over 80 bills and I don't have them all drafted up yet. I got so much work to do, but I mean, I'm hopeful. I just feel a complete peace. And it's not because Trump's in. Yeah. It's just, I know God's in control, but I am seeing things that you can't even make up, miracles and things for this state. And so I'm very hopeful. I think a lot of people have moved here. They see how bad it gets. Yeah. I think we have a lot of people that care. I guess if anything, the complacency it scares me the most. That people just say, well, we're good for 4 years. And then the pendulum swings back and we're, in a bad way.
Yeah.
That's good. Well, Heather, there's 2 things I want you to do real quick. I want you to give the website that people who are citizens of Idaho need to be paying attention to, the most important website you think we need to be looking at, and then a way to be able to follow what it is you're doing, to get your newsletters that you give out. How can we keep in touch with you? Because I wish we had all of our reps giving us the kind of information that you give us and the updates that you give us, what's going on in the session. I don't see that. I was asking earlier, does anybody else do this? Because I don't get the information. That's what I would sign up for. But I'm very grateful for that. So first, give us the website you think the Idahoans need to be paying attention to.
So the website would be the idaholegislature.gov. That's for the next 3 months. You can watch all the committee hearings. You can testify remotely on bills pretty easily now. You just click a button and pop in like the Zoom and you can testify. What happens is we get a lot of bills that people need to testify, and all the people from Boise come in and testify one direction, but the rest of the state may feel very different. And so it's really good to get outside people to testify, or you think like, oh, everybody likes this, and it's a piece of crap.
Wait, so you're saying that a homeschooling mom could be able to testify on some legislation?
Oh, absolutely.
Look at that. Homeschool. Look at that.
Homeschool mom could also just turn the whole legislative cycle into a government class.
Come on now.
You can watch the House session on the floor. I keep wanting to do a video and just kind of walk people through the steps on how to do it. It's to navigate the site. It's not too complex, but you can go look at all the bills. These are things, but I think more so than going to a website, get to know a legislator that you trust, build a relationship with them, and ask them what's going on, or to keep,
That's good.
That's something that they could do.
And how can we keep in touch with you?
I should have updated everything because some of the stuff you read wasn't exactly still happening.
Oh.
I hate to say this, but I'm so like, Twitter is probably the best way.
Yep.
Twitter right now. And I always say, if you're not getting my newsletter, I post them randomly on there. Probably calling me or texting me. That sounds crazy, but
that sounds awesome. That sounds awesome.
I love it.
I mean, a state legislator's like, I'd like for you to call me or text me. That's the best way to be in touch with me. I mean, that's actually powerful. Like,
yes,
that's actually like really, really encouraging. I mean, I think so often people think that to get in touch with their legislature, they need to fill out a form
on the website
and go through, some kind of complex, spider web of, call center type things. And for you to be like, people should just call me. That would probably be the easiest.
That's so good.
I mean,
love that.
That's awesome.
But keep in mind, I have a phone down here in Boise. I'm in Boise for the next 3 months. We have to move down here. And, it's filled. I bet there's 500 calls on there from what just happened with the Obergefell, hate speech or whatever they want to call it.
Yeah.
I mean, every cuss word and nastiness and threat out there. So that phone might be full. I don't usually even listen to that phone, but find my cell phone. It's out there. You can go to my website. Probably voteheatherscott.com is the best one. Voteheatherscott.com has the most recent stuff on it. I kind of need to update some things. And volunteering, I would encourage people like us. I mean, I'm so in over my head at times. We need help. Social media. We need help. Email, data entry. We don't have staff. None of the legislators have staff. And if you don't get a call back or you don't get an email respond, sometimes I don't see it. I literally will go through my inbox and see something from 4 years ago. I'm like, oh, something serious that I never responded to. So you just do the best you can do. That's all you can do. But
don't you have like 30 aides or something like that? Don't you have a bunch of help out there to help? No? Not really.
Oh, and we're getting paid way too much. Way too much.
Heather, her Twitter handle is Heather Scott ID. Heather Scott ID. So if you're an Idaho citizen, Idaho resident, find her on X. Even if you're not an Idaho resident and you want to see a representative doing it right,
yes, reach out to Heather.
Reach out to Heather. Watch what she's doing. Keep up with what she's doing. Heather, always appreciate having you on Cross Politic. It's actually a huge encouragement. I mean, you're actually.
I was expecting more negativity.
I know. You're like really like encouraging. So.
Well, I'll tell you that is something I've seen. I've learned is a lot of these lobby groups they got to raise money, so they're just going to tell you bad things and like, hey, give us money and we're going to fix it. But I am seeing so many positive things. Yeah. I know they still want to raise money, but let's not create problems we don't have. There'll be problems, but things are going really good right now. Let's keep it going.
Let's go.
Let's clean up the mess that we've created over 10 years and be positive, because we could use a little bit of that.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
Praise God. God bless
Thank
you.
you.
Really appreciate you, Heather. Public houses or pubs are not just places to drink beer, wine, cider, or even something a little stronger. It's also a unique social center, very often the focus of community life in villages, towns, and cities throughout the length and breadth of the world. We here at Cross Politic hope to emulate that for you and yours. That's why you should grab yourself a pub membership at fightlaughfeast.com. Pub membership is how you support us. We need you on this ride with us. So pull up a chair, grab a pint, join us on this ride at fightlaughfeast.com. That's fightlaughfeast.com. Go there, join the pub today, and support Fight Laugh Feast, support Cross Politic.
Can I just say something real quick and wrap up before we?
Yeah.
So it's really interesting listening. Some of the thoughts that immediately ran through my head was government is only able to do the things that it's able to do good. It doesn't have the answers to all the problems.
Right.
And one of the things that we hold to here is sphere sovereignty, self-government,
right.
Family government, church government, and then the civil government, right?
Yeah.
And I was thinking through this. I'm like, our education problem, like you were talking about earlier, she brought it up too. Our problem with a lot of the problems we have, the moral problem. We can't fix the colleges coming in if we don't have the right people in place who don't allow those doctrines to be taught, right? Mm-hmm. And so you have a huge responsibility and duty of Christians to act like Christians everywhere. And primarily, one of the flow of functions of the church is to help the people to remember God has given you and your wife the duty and responsibility to raise your children up in the fear and admonition of the Lord. Mm-hmm. Let us teach you what that looks like.
Make disciples.
And as we disciple people to disciple their people, all of a sudden you see this pushback against, well, if they don't help me raise my kids in the fear and admonition of the Lord, then I'm not sending my kids there to them.
Right.
And we can have a pushback against a system without ever having to change the laws there first.
Right.
And we forget that we have that kind of power. We don't have to get the power there. If we just do a lot of the things that we need to be doing, a lot of the stuff works itself out. If we can be physically responsible with our own money, spend it the best ways we can, and be fruitful with our children and teach them. I mean, Heather's been at this for 10 years.
I know. Right.
And this is the first time she said that she feels like she's getting somewhere.
Yeah, yep.
And it's like, we want to flip overnight. That's 2 presidencies.
Yep.
So
she's on her third.
She's on her third one.
Yeah.
And it's not happening overnight. And it's like, you have arrows that God has given you.
Yep.
And if, let's say you're there, when we got here, my daughter was 7. She's 17. She's driving now. Yeah. She's engaging in the world like a young woman.
That's 10 years too.
That's 10 years.
Yeah.
Right? And I'm thinking,
that's 5 terms.
Come on now. Come on now.
You've been serving for 5 terms.
How am I legislating my home?
That's right.
Yeah,
You know what I'm saying? How am I managing
really
my people? Because I'm going to have a bunch after underneath her that are going to be able to be engaged in the world a different way too. So what am I putting out there into society is going to say my line, my people, my government ain't going that way.
Yeah.
And if you put enough of those covenanted people together functioning that way, everything else has to bend.
Yeah, we just don't think like that, which is one of our central problems. We just don't think in terms of family government, church government.
Real governments.
And these are real governments recognized by God. And they don't take the place of the civil government, but there's a bunch of stuff that the civil government's doing that's not supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
And the reason why it's doing it, in part, is because family government and church government let them.
That's right.
Family government, individual government hasn't been saying, now that's my job to raise my children. That's our job to disciple these people, to be full-fledged, whole-orbed Christians in all of life.
Yeah.
We need you to punish criminals.
Yes.
We need you to uphold justice in our land. Yeah, that's what we need you to do. But not all this other stuff. How many contracts did she say our executive?
58,000.
58,000. Idaho executive branch has 58,000 contracts with various and sundry. I mean, yeesh. But we need to take the government of the family, government, even self-government.
That's right.
Some of you are, you say, I'm single.
Yep.
Now, you still got a government.
Yep.
As an individual under God, you have an individual government. You're to rule yourself, self-government, self-control. You're to use your time, your energy, your resources to build something good, to be productive, to provide value to those around you. Take responsibility. When you do that and you say, I'm going to pay my bills, I'm going to work hard so that I have a little bit of extra to give to those in need, so that I can invest, so I can start a business, so I can give to my church, so I can give to a missionary. I mean, you are acting like a faithful government.
Yeah.
That's right.
I still remember when I went last year, when I went for my son to get married.
Yeah.
That was the first thing you said when I said, we're going to Virginia. My son's getting married. And he looked at me and Knox said, so you're going to form a government.
That's right. That's right.
And I said,
That's right.
yes.
That's
right.
beautiful.
That's what I went and did.
That's beautiful.
I went and did.
And for decades of not doing this rightly, of families not taking the responsibility that they have needed to take, and we're in this mess. And the government has absorbed so much of our money because we haven't been responsible.
Right.
And that's right. Where, like, we got to recover that. We got to repent of that, and we got to recover that. I understand some of the angst our generation has against boomers. Boomers gave us a lot of mess. Yeah. They didn't fight the transgender thing, so we have to fight it. They didn't fight the homosexuality thing, so we have to fight it. You know, we got boys getting in school, stuff like that. Now,
boys getting in schools?
Boys getting in girls' bathrooms in schools. Sorry, yeah. And boys getting in schools.
What are boys doing in schools?
What are boys doing in public schools? That's what it is. What are boys doing?
Fair enough. Fair enough.
That's what I meant to say. But the point is we need to get out of this mess by retaking the responsibilities God's given us. And we got a little bit of an uphill battle.
I would say this is my thought on this.
Yeah.
I think what we call the greatest generation. Those are the World War II vets.
Yeah.
Who did something amazing.
Yeah. They had courage.
Yeah, great grandparents. Yeah, great grandparents.
Did something amazing. Like literally amazing.
Yeah.
And I think what happens is this is the periodic temptation is you do something amazing.
Yeah. And you chill out.
And then you sit down.
I did it. I did it all. I did it. I was amazing.
And then it's like, and now I deserve to rest. Now I deserve my retirement. Now I deserve, whatever. And I think that's largely what happened to our culture. I think that generation did something literally amazing, literally saved the world.
Yeah.
Literally. And I think a bunch of them came home and said, well, I'm done. And checked out.
Yep.
Not all of them, but a bunch of them. And I'm gonna sit down and I want life to be easy now because I went through hell, and they did.
Yes.
And then when the accusations came, what are you doing? We're starting to lose. I mean, what happened? You got, the 40s and 50s, and then you got the 60s and 70s. Yeah. It's their kids.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. It's their kids that drive the sexual revolution. And in Joshua, maybe it's in Judges. I'm reading through all that real fast right now. And it talks about how God said, I'm going to leave some enemies in the land so that the generations that didn't fight will not forget how to fight.
Yeah.
There's times where, when you get older, you're not in the fight as much, but your job is to cheer on the fight.
Yeah.
Your job is to do everything you can to provide for the fight. And, but I think that's what happened. I think we got lazy. I think but what happens is, of course, then when the accusation comes, what are you doing? You're like, hey, I did everything.
Yeah.
I
fought for freedom in this country.
I fought for freedom.
Yeah.
And of course, we should not dishonor, the real service and the glory of these. I mean, my grandfathers, were in that war.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
My grandfather was wounded in the Pacific.
Yeah.
And total honor.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But I also think that, what happened was a lot of them then sat down.
And Gabe, just everything you said, Pastor, I'm not taking away from any of that. I also think, we should be careful not to let bitterness turn us into the people that we've started hating.
That's right.
Yeah.
And I think we're blinded by that right now.
Yeah.
And I'm going to tell you, somebody who's been bitter, I've been through this.
Yeah.
When you wake up and God saves you and all of a sudden you start seeing properly, one of the things you start seeing properly is your past, right?
Yeah.
Like what you missed.
Yeah.
You can't see what God has blessed you to be able to see.
That's right.
Because
That's right.
that stuff helped you get where you were, because that's how God writes stories.
Yeah.
But you see all the stuff they didn't teach you and all the stuff they didn't save for you and all the stuff that they squandered. And now you got all this hard problems right in front of you that they didn't do. And you see it clear now. And you don't think you're acting bitter because bitterness doesn't expose itself to you. But you'll find yourself on the right path with a bitter heart.
Right.
And because you're not like the people who were before you, and because you're on a better path, you think that you're better than them or doing better than them, but your heart is full of bitterness and you're turning directly into them.
Right.
When I looked at my dad and I looked at how he raised us and how he, 15 kids and wasn't a good father, and what I didn't have and what I didn't get education, I easily was like, well, I'm doing pretty good because at least I'm staying married to my wife.
Yeah.
What did I just do though? I lowered the bar of the standard of being a godly man to at least I'm staying with my wife, so I'm not like him.
Right.
At least I go to work, so I'm not like him. He's not the standard of manhood.
And that's the thing. Like I think then you're becoming those boomers.
That's exactly right.
You're
That's
lowering the
exactly
standard
right.
in your life.
While you're progressing,
I went and fought the war.
That's right. I've stayed married
to my wife.
That's right.
That's good. I'm going to a Reformed church. I'm a Calvinist.
Yes.
I'm, whatever it is, like whatever your badge of honor is, becomes this. You're absolutely right, and that's what oftentimes is the thing that blinds us from the bitterness.
Yes,
because we're like, "What are you talking about?" I'm being
the comparison is easy.
I'm being faithful to my wife. I'm being faithful to my wife. That's godly, right? You saying that's not godly? Like,
right.
No. It's how you're holding it.
Yeah,
it's how you're holding it. There's a sneer. There's a bite. There's a spite.
Part of it is because you're not there and giving God thankfulness. You're not thankful. So you're not giving God thanks for even the bad stuff.
Yeah. Right.
Like this is not good. And so because of that, you can't, when I started seeing this properly, and it really helped me when I got to Moscow because of the beautiful forms of ecumenism that are here. But I started being thankful for the charismatic movement that I went through.
Yeah.
I started being thankful for the things that they did teach me that were good.
Right.
And because of that, I could say, yep, all right, I'm probably going to make some mistakes too. Lord, give me grace so that my kids don't hold that against me in the mistakes that I make.
Right.
But I started having a grateful heart for the good things because I looked at that and said, God used all of that to bring me to this point.
Right.
And so a thankful heart keeps you from that bitter, that makes you, that doesn't allow you to see what the real objective standard is in Christ.
I think one of the things that we have to particularly watch out for is I think, a bunch of stuff has gotten weaponized against Christians.
Yeah.
And so hate, for example.
Yeah.
Has just become this thing like no hate. And it's been weaponized against Christians who are like sodomy is an abomination.
Yep.
Abortion is a abomination. All these things. And the liberals, the leftists have been coming at us being like, you hater, you misogynist, you all these things. And so, it's on the back of the football helmets,
right. No hate,
yeah. Stop hate, all this kind of stuff. And it's like, yeah, that's, stupid. Like that's calling, good evil, and evil good, right? But there is a sin of hate. Now, are we to hate sin? Yes. Yeah. We're to hate sin like God hates sin. We're to hate those who do evil the way that God hates evildoers.
Yep.
But God hates with a perfect hatred.
Yeah.
And somehow it's not inconsistent with the fact that he's also wants to save people. Mm-hmm. Like the people that are his enemies, he hates for their sin. He also sent his son for.
Yeah, that's good.
Right?
That's good.
And it's like, so check your hate.
Yeah.
Because you can be easy to just be like, look, God hates, I like to hate, hating is good.
Yeah.
And, you leftists, own the libs.
Yeah.
Right.
No, it's not that simple. I mean, Titus says that in our sins, he describes it as, hating and being hated. Mm-hmm. That's a Bible verse. Mm-hmm. That's not leftists.
Yeah.
That's not a bunch of liberals. That characterizes unbelievers.
Yeah.
Full of malice, full of spite. Hate like God hates. But the way that God hates also includes with this, this determination to save. this determination to have mercy. I mean, we were enemies.
Right.
And Christ died for us.
That's right.
Right. So like, back to your point though about bitterness, like you want to have real checks in this moment where you can say, did our fathers and grandfathers fail in certain ways? Yeah. I absolutely did. None of them were perfect. And some of them were horrendous.
Yes.
Yeah. And some of them are probably better than you.
And right. It's true. True. But like, so, okay, now what?
Yeah.
And the real check is what you just said a minute ago. So can you say thank you?
Yeah, that's right.
Can you say thank you for my grandfather? Yep. Thank you for my dad. Thank you for this.
Right.
Can you rejoice? Mm-hmm. Right. Rejoice always. And Paul says, and again,
I say rejoice. That's good.
Like Heather Scott is doing.
She is so happy right now.
I mean, that was actually really encouraging. She's rejoicing.
Yeah.
So grateful for her.
That's right.
So if you're single, get married. If you're married, have you some kids. And if you have kids, go baptize them. Until tomorrow, love God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength. Love your neighbor as yourself. Go fight, laugh, and feast. This is Cross Politics.